Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to the Mathspace Parents and Carers information session. My name is Erin Byrne, and I'm the Head of Customer Success at Mathspace. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land and their elders past, present and emerging. We aim to respect them, their history and their future by respecting and maintaining this land that supports us. I'd also like to take the opportunity to welcome each and every one of you here tonight, wherever you are around Australia, as well as those people watching the recording. There's so much research about the benefits of parents and carers being actively involved in their children's learning and development. And I'd really like to acknowledge you all from being here as we discuss how Mathspace can be used to support your child's learning of mathematics. So thank you. Just to reiterate for people still coming on, we have some of the Mathspace team online. So if you do have questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A section and they'll be typing answers for you. And at the end, we'll have some question time as well. So let's get started. Mathspace was started 13 years ago based on the belief that every student can excel at mathematics with the right help at the right time. Our mission is to be the right help at the right time for every student. So the way we like to think of ourselves is as a textbook and tutor in one to really support what teachers are doing with your children in school. So tonight we're going to look at how to find tasks and complete work assigned by your child's teacher, how to use the Mathspace digital textbook, how Mathspace works as a digital tutor, as well as an exciting new beta feature that we'd like to share with you that plays into that as well. So what I'll show you tonight is on the student dashboard predominantly, but we will talk about how parents can receive emails as well. So the student dashboard is a learning ecosystem where students can come to complete classwork or homework, practice skills independently, and most importantly, see growth in their mathematical skills. So the first thing a student sees when they log in is any work assigned by their teacher. This is obviously the priority for them, and it'll support what they're doing in class. So to begin a task assigned by my teacher, I simply click on one of these tiles and they'll start working. If work has been assigned by your child's teacher, it'll appear under this assigned tab, and they can look at past tasks for revision as well as current active tasks. As students complete their work on Mathspace, the results will be shared with their teacher so they can best support your child and provide the personalised support that they need. So it's really important when they are working on Mathspace that they're showing their lines of working to give teachers the best information that they can. When they're looking at the active tab, students can also hide any overdue tasks. So it'll help them find the classwork that's relevant to them at the moment. So it should be relatively straightforward for them to keep track of their work. Mathspace notifies students when tasks are due, but we know sometimes these notifications are missed. So if you would like to receive email notifications about tasks that have been assigned by your child's teacher, you can do so from within the child's Mathspace account. So to do that, from in the account, simply click on their profile picture on the top right here, and then go into the settings and scroll down to the parents and guardian section. And you can add as many emails as you want in there, and you'll receive those task notifications as well to help keep track of that work. Our product team are actually looking at revamping weekly progress emails for parents too, so it'll have a little bit more detail about the work your child has been doing. And if you have your email linked with your child's account, you'll automatically start receiving those when they're available as well. Now let's move on to the digital textbooks in Mathspace. So you may be aware that a new curricula is being rolled out for students in years 7 to 10, or primary years as well, across Australia for the first time in quite a few years. And Mathspace has printed books for the first time. We've been a digital only product for a long time, and we've now have these printed books to accompany our online resource. So this may be something that your school is using now, both either just the digital resource or the printed books as well. If you're in Western Australia, the rollout is still a couple of years away. So this may be something that's not quite as familiar as yet. So to go through a little bit more about how this textbook works, we've got a typical curriculum structure here. So on the left are the year levels and the various strands or topic areas that run through the curriculum in those areas. And what's particularly important to realise is that maths skills build on one another, and those foundational skills will have a big impact on later understanding in topic areas. So in any school year, students will be expected to learn a small component from each topic. So for example, here we've got a year 7 student, and the little components would look like this. That would be their grade level work, and that would be what's presented in the textbook. We know it's very common for students to access their textbooks online, whether they have a printed book or not. And for that reason, we've purposely designed our printed books so they are seamlessly transition into our digital books. So here I've got an example of what our print book looks like. You can see all the question sets here. If they move into the digital platform and click into this textbook section, they can access all their grade level, go back there, all their grade level content, which will match what's in that print book. The benefits of the online textbook is that it includes lessons, videos, worked examples, as well as practice exercises within that digital space. And students have access to all the Mathspace textbooks made available to them by their teachers. To change it, they just click on the title of the current book and they can choose the other level that's appropriate to them. So it's a really great resource for test or exam preparation. We know students will generally receive an exam notification from their teacher, which will outline the topics, and they can simply navigate their way through those topics here. As they complete adaptive tasks on Mathspace or tasks assigned by their teacher, we'll report a level of mastery to them, which you can see here. So as they're studying for their exams, they can see where they're familiar and where they might need a little bit more support, where they haven't quite demonstrated that full level of mastery yet, as well as any areas they actually haven't covered at all. So it's providing a really clear outline for them around areas that they would benefit from working on. Once they choose one of these topics here, they'll start writing their responses within Mathspace. And when they're entering those steps of working, they get immediate feedback on those too. So it's really making sure they're supported on that learning journey too. So their learning flow looks something like this. As they're working on questions, they can use the hints and video supports within Mathspace. They can look at the lesson as well. Or of course, they can collaborate with their peers and discuss that mathematical content as well. If they are really stuck and they're just not sure how to progress in a question, they can skip the question. And again, all of this is flagged for the teacher, so they can intervene and help your child out as necessary there too. If we go back to this example of a year 7 student, we know that it's not uncommon for students to have a gap or multiple gaps in their knowledge from earlier years. And this can be a real source of concern for both the student and parents. I think the latest research shows that in a typical year 9 class in Australia, there's 7 years difference between the top and bottom student. So trying to present a lesson that's relevant to every child is a real challenge that teachers face every day. And that's where Mathspace becomes more like a digital tutor. We use what's called skills check-ins, and these weekly regular check-ins will help identify any gaps and measure the students' growth, and more importantly, help them develop their independent learning skills. So it's a routine we really want all students using Mathspace to develop if they're not already doing that with their teachers in class. The skills view, as I said, helps identify any gaps and as well as areas they might be excelling in, and support the students' current learning. So when I'm looking at the skills view, I'll just be focusing on that one particular strand and looking across those 3 to 10 areas for that skill. We use AI technology to understand the student's total knowledge state with these skills check-ins, just from a small sample of questions. And these are all mapped to curriculum outcomes in a knowledge graph with prerequisite skills. So we can report on our confidence levels for their readiness for other topics as well. We then use this to select the best outcomes to assess and to inform what tasks Mathspace recommends to students to ensure they experience success and support what they're doing in class as well. So this picture is what's happening in the background, but how that's presented for students is when they're looking at this skills view here, they can click on the strand and they're presented with a breakdown of those skills and what they've demonstrated and areas, as I said, where they might have a gap that they would benefit from more practice of. In that skills map, it prompts them to work on the learning focus that's related to what they're doing with their classwork as well. And you'll notice that while I report on the year level that the student's at, it also shows those prior year levels there. So encouraging your child to focus on these prior year levels and the skill section here for independent practice will really benefit what they're doing in class. Even if it's not explicit here, it's basically ordered so the earlier year levels are at the bottom of this list. So by starting at the bottom and working up will help your child experience success more quickly because it will be from those earlier years. Once they do that practice task, the idea is that they'll check in on that skill, which will only be a couple of questions that they need to demonstrate that understanding. And that will report on that growth in that understanding there. So these regular weekly skills check-ins will give you and your child a chance to celebrate the growth in their mathematical understanding and allow them to experience that regular success, which helps with engagement and just the attitude towards maths that we know can really flag in students, particularly if they're not feeling particularly confident with maths as a subject. So playing in with these skills check-ins are the personalised recommendations that Mathspace makes for practice tasks. So if you are looking for some independent practice for your child, this is a really great way to use Mathspace. So there's different recommendation categories that students can pick from. So we do give them a sense of ownership over what they want to work on, but it's always something that's beneficial to them because it's based on those check-ins on the work that they've been doing in Mathspace there as well. In addition to this, I mentioned we want to be the right help at the right time for every student. And I'd like to introduce Milo, which is our new AI-powered tutor. And this is something we have been testing throughout the later half of last year. And some schools will already be using this as part of their Mathspace package as well. But we know the rollout of AI is very new to the world, and rolling this out will depend on your school's policies. So some school students will not have access to this, others will, but it's something we will be sharing in the coming months. And you will have the opportunity to purchase this digital tutor as part of your school's package assuming the schools are happy for that and it complies with their policies there as well. So let me show you a little bit more about how this works. Milo, as I said, is being trained to be like a real digital tutor that works with your child, where they have conversations to help deepen their mathematical understanding. And the great thing is that this doesn't have to be in English. If that's their second language, you can choose, or you can translate it into any language, given some limitations that you would like. If anyone's, we've spent a lot of time training Milo, because if anyone played with ChatGPT originally, you would see that maths wasn't its strong point, but that training component with the information and knowledge base that we have is becoming really powerful. The common theme question that we get, both from parents and teachers, is, does Milo help my child or student cheat? And we're training him not to. So the idea is, like a human would, you try and redirect them and encourage students to demonstrate their understanding there. The other really key component is ensuring that students are safe when they're working online. And this is an example of a conversation. These are messages that are flagged, so our team is alerted and we notify our teachers if that's happening as well. So the idea is that it's always a safe space for students to interact there. Now, I've been talking a lot just for the moment, so we'll take a little pause, answer any questions that have come up, and I'm going to hand over to Joel to take you into the Mathspace platform and show you in a little bit more detail there.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Erin. Nice to see everybody. So I know that there were a few questions that came through. Thanks, Phil, by the way, for all the questions that have come. There's been some really, really good questions. And see, I know that a few of the questions were raised there. One of the ones, I'm located in WA, so one of the ones that's come through a couple of times is just to clarify about textbooks that we talked about at the beginning. So Mathspace still has WA textbooks. There's no problem there. It's just that all the other states have updated their curriculum. With WA, we're still just using the previous version of the textbook that we already had available, and that will continue to be made available to all WA teachers and students as well.
Yeah, I will just mention the print books are not available for those old ones, so we're rolling that out with those new curricula. So WA can expect those when their new version comes out too.
Okay. Were there any other questions that we were going to answer live here before we have a look at the live mode?
I haven't been looking at them, Joel. I'm leaving that on you.
Just one, Joel and Erin. There's one about can parents purchase the textbook from Mathspace if the school does not provide it? So, yeah.
Yes, we ran this webinar 2 nights ago, and we had a lot of requests. So we've set up links, which I'll share at the end of the session. So if you want to have a look at purchasing a book, you'll be able to do so through us as well.
Yeah, just as a reminder as well, after the session, we will email a link of the recording and also those purchasing links in a follow-up email to everybody too.
Okay, I'll hand over to you then, Joel.
Okay, great. I'll share my screen.
The other questions we've got, Joel, to answer live was, with the school always set homework, but if not, how does the child find work to do? So hopefully you'll cover that in this next section.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we'll definitely cover that right now. So what I'm doing right now, I'm actually logged in here as a student. And so this is exactly what a student's view would look like. You can see right here in the middle, that's the work that's been assigned by the teacher. And so to answer that question, so that's a great segue. Any work that's been assigned by the teacher, the student can access right here. That's obviously very important. You can see the due date and everything there. You can, of course, also see any work that has been done in the past. So I can click on View All, and I can see not only my active tasks, but also my past tasks that I've assigned or been assigned to me in the past, and I can see the work that I've done in there as well. So just going back to the dashboard, there is the assigned work, but then as a student, I can work on things myself as well. So there's a couple of things you can do. One is you can look at the skills map. So Erin had already talked about the skills map and check-ins, but students can actually click on their skills tab and they can see how they're doing in any one of their learning areas. So whether it's number or algebra, and then even going down to an actual learning area such as number and place value, fractions and decimals. So for example, if I was to click here on number and place value, I can see there that I have some recommended practice. Now this recommended practice is going to be the optimal learning experience for me, completely personalized across year levels and available for me within this area of number and place value. As the student scrolls down, you can see that this student is a year 7 student and they have some skills here that, that they haven't yet achieved. One means that they're just exploring it. 2 means that they've become a little bit more familiar with that topic or that skill. As I scroll down though, you can see that as I start at the very bottom, I've got a lot of mastery. The star there means that I've mastered that outcome or that skill. And as I scroll up, you can see I've got a lot of mastery here. And then you can see I've still got a few gaps here. So these gaps mean that this is work that the student can be working on their own. It does not have to be assigned by the teacher. In fact, it's not assigned by the teacher. And the student can learn some more by clicking on the pencil button where they get all the hints and the videos and the lessons and everything to really support your child to learn. And once they're ready, they can do a skill check-in even at the skill level there. And it's only a couple of questions actually to skill up and show that your child is either proficient or has shown mastery in that area. So that's the skills tab. We also have the textbook tab. So if a student wants to learn on their own and just go through the textbook that's been assigned by the teacher. So in this case, we've got a year 7 student. We're working in the new 2024 textbook here. So I can look down and I can look at any of the chapters. Maybe I want to look at equations. This is a great way to look through it yourself because you can see that I've worked on this as a student myself before and I'm proficient in this particular chapter. In this chapter, I'm emerging. Here's another chapter. I'm familiar in this one. But maybe I want to move on to the two-step equations. So I could look into there and I can see that I can view the lesson. Just like a traditional textbook, you've got a lesson with all of your text. You've got worked examples. Every example has videos attached as well. So lots and lots of help for the students to learn. Then when they're ready to practice, they can click on the practice tab and they can see a whole lot of questions. As you can see, there's lots of questions here for a student to learn with, and they can start their own adaptive task. That's not something that was assigned by the teacher, but they can do it and they can work through themselves. Of course, the teacher can assign this work as well in the same way. Earlier, we had a quick look at what the experience looks like within Mathspace for a student. You can see there are lots and lots of questions here for a student to go through. Maybe I want to just have a look though at what this looks like. So I'm going to actually try a question here live for you. And so we can see that I just chose a random question. Yep, so there we go. So we've got this question here, 6 times p plus 6 equals 48. Now this is also showing off Milo chat. So right here at the bottom, we have the regular hint, the video, the example, all of those things are available to students to help them learn. But now we also have Milo chat where students can actually get feedback and have a conversation with Milo. So maybe they're not sure where to start. As Erin said earlier, we have a lot of guardrails in place. So some students might say, just give me the answer. Okay, and Milo is not going to do that. He's a good tutor. And so his job is to try to help the student to learn step by step. So, you know, maybe they say, where do I start? And I've made a spelling mistake. That's okay. Milo can understand that. All right, so now we're going to start with the equation and we're going to divide both sides by 6, it tells us. All right, so we can do that. And so you can see how effective it is that we can actually use Milo Chat to help us to learn in this way. So we can see that it's helping us to go through there. Erin also mentioned it's available in different languages, so it's very easy to do that. You can say, please type all help in French, let's say. Okay, and there you go. So whatever language, tested lots and lots are available. So a great resource there for your students as well. Okay, maybe this time I can open it up and see if there were any other live questions to answer.
Thanks, Joel. One that has come up a few times that would be good to answer live is whether parents have a separate login to students.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so no, there's no separate parents portal. As Erin mentioned before, we do have the ability where parents can enter an email address and you will be emailed with tasks that are currently due. And so that's a great way for you as parents to be able to see how your child is doing. But yeah, currently there is a student login and you are definitely welcome to look over their screen and see how they're doing in the class. I should mention as well, and these are great things to be able to see, is that the student on any of their pages, I'll just go back to the dashboard view here, but you can actually see how the student's been doing recently as well. So I can see that right now I've done 20 minutes of practice. I've earned 250 points there, which is really good. And I've also earned 4 skills this week. So it's a great way to be able to see how your student is doing or how your child is doing. If you want to look over their shoulder, and you can see their accounts that way too. Okay, Michael, Craig, any more questions that are coming through that would be good to answer live?
Yeah, one question we had from one parent was, should we prevent students from using the AI, from using Milo to get the answer?
Yeah, good question. Thanks, Michael. So Milo has been trained not to give the student answers. So as you saw there, when I typed in, please just give me the answer, which a lot of students will try, Milo won't just give them the answer straight away. So that's nice. That's one of the guardrails that's put in place. We also have a lot of other guardrails. It's not going to go off and answer random questions about other things. It must stay in connection to that question. So we think it's a great resource for students to use. So just like you would use a tutor, that resource is available for your students to continue to learn. Now with check-ins, the check-ins are different because they are an assessment tool and they do not have the helps in the videos or Milo Chat. And so we make a clear distinction between the questions where you're practicing and you're learning and you get the tutoring and you get the videos, and then those that are more like an assessment where we're seeing, okay, where does the student, where are they being diagnosed, or if there's assessment that the teacher has set up, the teacher can actually stop the student from having access to those things if they choose to do that when they assign a task.
Yeah, great. Another interesting question I've just seen is that children can have skills signed off, or they can be sort of marked as understanding those skills, but the learning may not stick in the medium term or the long term. How does Mathspace pick that situation up?
Yeah, great point. So the skills check-in is actually a progressive assessment. We love it because it's a low stakes environment, and it doesn't just happen one time, but it's progressive and it's ongoing in that we encourage a 10-minute check-in once a week or once every 2 weeks. And by doing that, students will have a more accurate picture of where they're at. And of course, the teachers get that data as well. They get a more accurate picture of where they're at. And also, so they're going to see growth, but they're also sometimes going to see regression. We sometimes see that after the summer holidays, everyone comes back and maybe they will do a check-in and they've forgotten something that they once knew before. And that's to be expected, that sometimes there is negative growth or regression. But the good thing is because it's a progressive assessment, that will continue to grow as students do their check-ins every week or every 2 weeks.
Joel, just had a couple of questions as well about how this compares to probably a platform some parents are familiar with their child, Mathletics.
Yeah, great question, Craig. So look, there's a lot of really great resources out there. We understand that. Mathspace, I've never seen something that can help students learn in the same way as Mathspace does. With all the hints, with all the lessons, with all the work solutions, with lessons and textbooks that are aligned with your state's curriculum. And now with Milo Chat as well, with all these things combined, there really is nothing really that compares, that can offer your students the help they need when they need it. And so, you know, of course, that's my opinion. I have seen a lot of different programs myself, and I was just completely blown away when I first came across Mathspace and the ability that it has to really help the students to learn. So Mathspace is rigorous. We're all about helping the students learn. That's our motto. That's our mission. And so, you know, it's not going to be maybe as gamified as some of the other options out there, but you're sure going to see some improvement with your students if they use Mathspace.
There's also a few questions coming around about logging into Mathspace and how you get login details.
Yeah. So great question. So parents don't have their own login. So if the question was related about how you as a parent log in, you can sign up for a parent email, but we have student logins and we have teacher logins. The student's login, that will be emailed to the student once they have been added to a class by the teacher. Alternatively, some teachers will also use a join code. And so the student would either be sent a URL with the join code, or maybe in their class, the teacher would share that join code with them. If they've never had a Mathspace account before, they can create an account and join the class in one go. And if they've used Mathspace in previous years, then that join code will just allow them to join that new class.
Fantastic.
Just another thing, we are getting lots and lots of questions. We're not going to probably get to all of them. So we're doing our best, and we're working like hamsters on a spinning wheel here at the moment. So we are trying to get to your questions. So apologies if we don't get to them.
Yeah, that's right. We've seen a great turnout again. Over 1,000 people have shown up today, and a lot more registered for both events. So it's great to see so many parents involved in their child's learning.
Joel, could you just flash up one more time where parents enter their email address while you're on that student view there? So this
yeah, that's right. Yeah, great point. So parents' emails can be added by the teacher, or also when your child comes home, if you want to be added, then you can just have them do this. So they can go to their little avatar at the top there, and then they can go to their settings under here. And so in the settings section, once they scroll down, they will see, there it is, parents and guardian. So you can add your parent's email address right in there. If there's multiple email addresses that you want listed, you can do that there too. Just separate them by a comma.
Joel, just another question that keeps coming out. Sorry, Erin.
Right.
Is the amount of time and frequency using Mathspace at home? Is there a particular length of time, or is it really determined by the teacher, or and students can obviously do some independent work as well?
Yeah, so independent work is completely up to your child and the student. They can work on it whenever they want. And we see some people really being motivated by those skills check-ins and looking at their skills map and filling in the gaps that they may have. It's a great way for students to make sure that they're not missing anything from prior year levels. And studies have shown that actually the majority of students do have some gaps in previous year levels. And so Mathspace is all about helping the student where they need the help, and addressing those gaps is one area. Now, work that's been assigned by the teacher, that's a different story. So that's been assigned. The teacher will have a due date that work is due by. And so the student should be completing that work by the due date. It's up to the teacher if there's an extension that's offered.
Just another question I think would be a really good one to demonstrate if you can. It might take a bit to find a question, but if one of the parents has asked if there's an equation question, for example, that is in brackets where you can either reverse the operations from the, say, the number out the side, or you can expand the brackets, how does Mathspace handle something like that? It's probably a good demonstration question to actually show.
Yeah, great question there. Actually, the example I showed earlier could have done that, so I may as well find that example there. So obviously a parent there that knows and is comfortable with some maths, so that's great. So let's go down here and find a similar question again. So yeah, for example, this one here, I can either divide by 3 on both sides, or I can distribute that 3, right? And Mathspace can actually allow for both solutions, or even just going straight to the answer and saying m equals. So I can go like this and say 3m minus 18 equals 15, and I can see there I've distributed the 3, so both the m and the -6. Or I could also just divide both sides by 3, and so in that case I'm going to get like this, and you can see that I get this tick with a solid line, which means that I'm heading towards the right direction, towards the answer. So yeah, that's another great way that Mathspace is able to be used, and it's not restricting the specific method of how you would go about solving this equation. One thing that sometimes comes up is that people will say, well, Mathspace is, students might say, oh, I've got it wrong, and I've got it right, and Mathspace says it's wrong. We worked hard at actually alleviating student frustration. So here, the next step would be that I'd add 6 to both sides, and I'd get 11. So if I just put in here 11 as a student, you can see that just like a good tutor, they're not going to mark this wrong. They're not going to say, oh, no, you're completely wrong. Actually, the working, they knew what they were doing. They just wrote the incorrect format. So this doesn't take points away, but it will give them a little clue here. We still require them to write the final answer as an equation, but you can see that Mathspace is actually helping them without taking the points away.
And just one thing I want to iterate, it's come up a few times. Students can access work beyond just their grade level as well. So above or below whatever they need. We limit the range based on what the teacher provides. They provide some scope for the class just to make it manageable, but they will be able to access content generally above and below their grade level.
Yeah, that's right. So skills check-ins does that automatically all the way down to year 3 content. And so the student's able to fill in gaps wherever they exist. And then, as Erin mentioned, it's up to the teacher which textbooks the student may have access to. So this student actually has access to a whole lot of that of those textbooks. But that's something that the teacher can also add as additional textbooks.
Okay. There's still a lot of questions open there, but just for the sake of time, I want to be respectful because I know there's dinner times and bedtimes and all kinds of things going on for different people. So we will try and answer some of the questions that are remaining in a subsequent email to answer some of these questions that are coming out. If you have any other questions, you'll be able to get in contact with our team as well. So we'll be able to answer some of those questions. Or, of course, you can have discussions about specific school things with your child's teacher as well, or the school, because they're the ones that have chosen to use this as a resource for this year. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks for joining.